One of our joys each year is to be present in your home in this Christmas season. We've never been very promotional, but we want you to know how grateful we are and who you are and what you mean to us. And we're up in age now, and my doctor said, "Would you want to be symptom-free at 93?" And I said, "Yes."
You would.
And he laughed. He just laughed. And we're not trying to prove anything. We just want you to know this celebration is very, very important to us. And Judith is going to talk to us a little bit about the Christmas message. And I will pick up on that after she's done. And I'm thrilled that she would do this, sweetheart.
Okay. Some of you remember Paul Harvey. He was a radio broadcaster years back, and we used to listen to him. He had a favorite Christmas story that I'd like to refer to, and it's about the man and the birds. And the old Christmas story of the babe born in a manger escapes some modern people, the moderns, and some skeptics, mostly because it seems too simple, and they need to have more complex.
Yeah.
They seem to go for the complex, and when the Christmas story is just simple as can be. So I'm going to present a modern parable that Paul Harvey gave about the man and the birds. And this man was a kind, good, decent man, but he just didn't believe in that incarnation story. And he didn't believe in the manger and the baby. It was just too much for him. He just didn't, it didn't make sense to him. So he was just too honest to say otherwise. So he just couldn't go to church, and with his family that Christmas Eve, he said to his wife, "I feel like a hypocrite going there because I don't believe all that malarkey." So he said, "Go with the children and to the midnight service, and I'll be here when you get back." So shortly after they left, he went to his favorite chair and by the fire, and he started reading his newspaper, and it started to snow. And he heard this thud, and then there was another thudding, and thuds kept happening. And when he went to the front door to see if somebody was throwing snowballs at the window, it was a flock of birds out there, and they were cold and miserable, and they were trying to get into the light. So he said, "Oh my, I'll have to go out and see if I can help them." And he put on his boots and his coat and hat, and he went out and opened the barn where the kids had their ponies sheltered. He opened both big doors so these birds could come in, but they wouldn't come in. They didn't know what he was doing. So he tried to shoo them in, and he waved his arms, and he walked around them and circled them and tried to get them to come in, but they just wouldn't come in. And so the storm was getting worse, and they were miserable. So he went into the house and got some breadcrumbs, and he tried to entice them to come in with these breadcrumbs into the barn, and they still wouldn't come in. And he said, "Oh, I just can't see them suffering out here. I have to help them," and realized that they were afraid of him. He suddenly saw how he was a human person. They didn't know. It was scary to them who he was, and so he tried to talk to them and tell them, but he said, "I guess I'm going to have to become one of them so they will understand me and they will know that I want to help them." And he said, "How am I going to do that? If only I could be a bird and talk to them in their language and become one of them, then I could convince them to come in and not to be afraid of me, to trust me." So he suddenly realized that he's trying to bring them into the safe and the warm barn, and then he suddenly saw it. He saw how God became human, came into our world so he could talk to us and tell us who he is and how loved we are. And so at that moment, the church bells were ringing because it was Christmas Eve and midnight, and there was the proclamation going out of joy to the world, tidings of great joy. And suddenly, he fell to his knees in the snow. I hope
this was, the reason we wanted to do this year was because the incarnation is the one worldview that brings life to everyone.
Yeah.
God became human.
Yeah.
It's the most joyous sound that's ever been heard.
Absolutely.
And when he saw himself as wanting to be incarnated as a bird, and so what our Christmas card is going to have this year is a picture of the little manger, and in that manger is the bread of life. Yeah. And in 24 we'll be 70 years in ministry. And when you suggested we do the manger scene and then the bread of life, and he was bringing bread to these, but it's incarnational bread that brings life to a hurting world. And we want to bring life to you. The AI, artificial intelligence, is going to force us to see our humanity all over again. So when he dropped to his knees and recognized the Father God, Emmanuel, God with us. It's my favorite hymn. Judith plays it for us, and I sing it and worship. And the Emmanuel, we, Judith and I, Life Changer staff, Mark and Julie, all of us, we impart to you the bread of life through Jesus Christ. We ask for your strength, your prayer, and for us to continue to share the life of Christ this Christmas season.